Life, the only talk radio show that takes you along with host and age explorer Rod Gantos on his continuing journey of discovery into life's challenges, opportunities, options, and all the latest and greatest things that come with getting older. The Raad Life is brought to you this week by Your Home for a Lifetime, a company dedicated to empowering you to stay safely, independently, and comfortably in your own home. And now here is your host, Rad Gantos.
Rad Gantos,
Good
he's here.
afternoon, everybody, boys and girls. Appropriate since we're talking about schools, right?
Your guest today said here he's only two topics that he won't discuss today.
No,
One
don't
is
give it away.
One is the toll roads and one is Trump.
Okay. God,
We're
Paul,
tired of hearing of both of them.
Paul, we're going to have a closed meeting later, Jeez. Time for that staff meeting again.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Like I said to you when I walked in and you said that, I said, well, then I guess he's got to get out of here.
That's what this show talks about.
Because, that's actually kind of our fallback topics when we don't have anything or we have some dead air time,
I think Trump is behind the toll roads. I think secretly.
This is how funny this is, right?
Yeah.
It's almost become a joke, right? I had a spider bite, which anybody who follows me on Facebook basically goes, oh my God, you made a whole friggin' thing out of a spider bite, right?
Yeah.
But now it's being referred to by some people as the toll road spider bite.
Oh.
So every time I start talking about something,
instead of the kiss of the Spider Woman, it's the kiss of the toll road
spider bite.
Yeah.
So, but I digress. We do have a gentleman in the studio today that I've been trying to get actually on for a couple of weeks, and he had to go on vacation and all that good stuff, and I couldn't get him. So we have Ryan Burris here, who is Chief Communication Officer of Capistrano Unified School District. And the reason why I wanted to have Ryan here, welcome Ryan.
Thank you.
Is because I live in the belly of the beast of South County. And
is it a beast? I didn't know it was a beast. Oh, okay.
Well, we love it though, right? So
Yes.
I'm not relocating from the belly of the beast, right? It's actually probably if they ever did a virtual reality show on an area in the country that is basically just engaged and involved, and everybody's in everybody's business, and everybody's just up to speed, and whether it's correct information or misinformation or whatever. I mean, if you're bored for a split second, come live in South County, because there's so much going on. And I will tell you, I've said this before and I will say it again, I would rather live in a community that is overly engaged,
passionate,
yes, but sometimes crazy, but versus one that is not. Okay, because I think we are better as a society if we have discussions even when the topics are difficult. We do this on this show all the time, right? We don't shy away from talking about end of life or seniors getting older, or how do I have that conversation with my parents about them basically stop driving and knocking the side of the garage every time they pull in and pull out. So I think we as a society need to go back to having some sort of civic discourse about topics that we may not agree with on, right? And versus trying to basically just talk about only the stuff that we have as common grounds. I know this thing about we got to find common ground. Yeah, we do, but at the same time, we also need to be respectful about the fact that we can walk away from the table having differing opinions about stuff, but having learned something out of the exchange. Maybe found out what the other person's viewpoint is.
Talk to one another. We shout at each other, but we don't talk.
Perhaps something that I didn't know about or they didn't know about, right? Without that exchange, we pretty much are talking in echo chambers and bubbles,
yes.
And that doesn't cause anything to happen, okay? It's like a stagnant pool of water, right? So, with that being said, some of the two most heated topics.
I'm trying to see where you're going on this one.
Two most heated topics in South County is, one is the public school system, and they got a little competition for viewership right now with the toll road, right? But
two things that keep people animated.
The two, excuse the pun, pathways or roads intersect, because in some cases there's a discussion about this proposed toll road running pretty darn close to some of the schools in South County, right? But before I get into that, I want to just, Ryan, give us a little bit about your background, because I know that you had.
Are you going to let Ryan talk today here?
If you would let me get a minute in.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, Paul, no talking. Ryan gets your spot, right? But you had a life before CUSD. You actually were involved at a community information level or communication level with something else prior to CSD, right?
Right.
What did you do?
I've been with Capistrano Unified for over 2 years now. Prior to that, I was with the Orange County Rescue Mission. overseeing development and fundraising for
Yep.
4 years. And before that, I was with the Orange County Sheriff's Department for 8.5.
Wow, 3 totally
So I'm
different
really tempted to
entities,
ask,
yeah.
how does being with the school district for 2 years compare to being with the sheriff's department?
Well, as far as a dynamic organization and something that is constantly moving and
Yeah.
and stuff going on, it's the same. It's different topics, but there's so many pieces and parts moving all the
Right.
time that there's some ways that it feels very much the same.
So let's give people a minute to just digest that, right?
Right.
The Orange County Sheriff's Department and the Capistrano Unified School District, the level of engagement and moving pieces at all times is the same for somebody in your position.
Right.
Okay. So
And by the way, let me add something else.
this is why you'll never get a chance to
We've
talk.
had Sandra Hutchins in here, the current sheriff. We've
Yeah.
had the undersheriff Don Barnes in here. I think isn't he called the undersheriff? Or
Yes.
And I was stunned how big the Orange County Sheriff's Department is. It isn't just that they, like any county sheriffs, administer certain roads and everything. They're also the coroner for the county.
Right.
They also run the jail, which is, I think, the 6th or 7th or 8th largest jail in America right now. They also do work with the ports and search and rescue out in the water. They have a mounted unit, and they handle policing for, I forgot how many cities here in
Right,
South
that's
County.
right.
now.
They contract out. I mean,
Yeah.
San Clemente is one of them.
Huge,
So-
huge
so-
department. So you're comparing that.
Well,
that tells you how big
yeah,
Capo
well,
is
but,
and
but,
how.
But no. But that's an excellent way to basically now transition to Capo.
Thank you.
Because it is large, right? It's one of the largest school districts in California, right?
Right. We're talking 7 cities in an unincorporated area, 200 square miles, over 4 million square feet of building space,
Wow.
50,000 kids, 5,700 employees, full-time and part-time. So yes, it is
And
a big
how does that
organization.
rank
What kind
in
of
terms of
what kind
others?
of budget
Yeah.
does Capo have?
$477 million.
Oh my God! So how does that rank in terms of other school districts,
Yeah.
either in Southern California or the country or the county or whatever?
I think it's the second largest in the county. It might be 4th. I don't remember.
Next
the
to what?
state?
Irvine? Would
Next to Santa Ana. No,
Santa Ana.
Irvine's rather small.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Comparatively. Santa Ana would be comparative to us as far as enrollment.
And just to sort of wrap that around, Ryan, what are the 7 cities?
It is Rancho Santa Margarita, Mission Viejo, Aliso Viejo, Laguna Niguel, Dana Point, San Clemente, San Juan Capistrano. I don't want to miss one because I don't want to offend anyone.
Yeah.
But it's would you say that it's pretty much
To
what
add 'em
we
up.
refer to as South County?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So it basically provides service for that. And what kind of attendance? What kind of school student population?
We have 47,000,
Wow.
and it's slowly declining enrollment, but not significant, but declining enrollment.
So let's talk about that because I don't want it to sound like this is all about Toll Road. I really want to talk about this because we are a show that's sort of about aging, if you will,
Right.
and sort of changing demographics. What is happening with that? What's happening with the demographics? I mean, is it accurate to say that we are seeing a shift in ages,
Aging in place?
No. I'm talking about like where some schools are basically either getting mothballed because there's lack of attendance, or what are you seeing as far as
We're
trends?
getting
happening?
older.
Yeah, there are some cities that are aging in place and that don't have the enrollment of young people any.
And how long has that been going on? Has it been
been going on
a
for a
regular
while.
kind of
Yeah, but then there are other
steady
places
thing?
like Aliso Viejo, Ladera Ranch,
Uh-huh.
Rancho Mission Viejo that are growing as far as student population goes. So you have some areas of the district where we're looking at lower enrolled schools, and some areas where we're actually building a school.
So what areas are you building schools right
Rancho Mission Viejo.
now? Okay.
We're building a Sensia K-8 school that's set to open fall of 2018.
But that's the Rancho Mission Viejo area that is
Hadn't been
still,
built
still
yet.
unincorporated, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Where they're building.
And this is
building new homes.
for people who are not familiar. This is sort of Antonio Parkway, Ortega inland
Correct.
from San Juan.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And
The only place in South County they're still building homes in large numbers.
well as new subdivisions.
Yes.
Because and this is, I will transition that in a minute. So you've got that happening. Is there anywhere else that's happening in South County?
As far as
New
young
schools,
people,
yeah.
new schools, no. We're building. We opened new buildings this year.
Okay, where did you open new
San
buildings?
Clemente High School, San Juan Hills High School, 24 new classrooms. Part of that was just to help to with the shift in population
Right.
to make sure that our high schools have room.
Right.
And then we're looking at places like Aliso Viejo that still has a pretty growing family community.
Yeah. And those are schools, like I know in the case of San Clemente, those are schools that are older. Those are older facilities, right? So in some cases it's maybe improving facilities or keeping updating facilities, right?
Yeah, specifically to San Clemente, which is one of our oldest campuses.
Right.
When you go look at the new building, the juxtaposition of the portables and the older facilities on campus
Right.
is huge. There's a huge contrast between the two, and it has to do with the aging campus.
Right. And so, what do you see as a trend? I mean, if we've got lesser population going into like middle school, let's say, is that where you're experiencing it?
We're seeing it mostly in elementary.
Elementary.
At this point, yeah.
Okay.
But again, it's based on geographic locations. It's not on a whole throughout the district.
But that still says to me that in those geographic locations that you're having a lower enrollment at elementary,
right,
that the likelihood is that's now going to just go through the whole pipeline, right? And so it won't just be elementary or middle schools. Not likelihood is that you'll have underutilized high schools in those particular areas, right?
In some cases, I guess you could say that. Now we have a bunch of elementaries feeding into middle schools,
Okay.
and then a bunch of middle schools feeding into 6 high schools.
Okay.
What you would also see though is that private and charter schools that are K-8 schools,
Right.
those kids are looking for high schools after 8th grade.
Okay.
So you won't necessarily see the enrollment trends as significant there.
So so how far do you guys project? Because I'm trying to understand, like, if with that scale of an operation, that you're looking at stuff many years in advance, right?
Right.
And with that foresight, what are some of the trends that you're seeing?
Well, we see continued population enrollment and things like that in places like Rancho Mission Viejo, Aliso Viejo, to a lesser extent in some other cities where there's still some building going on as far as homes, and then but we're looking sometimes 10 years out to try to come up, like with the Sensi K-8 school. It was actually delayed a couple times because of the economy and other things. What we were seeing in enrollment was we could still take on that enrollment in other schools without impacting it significantly, and then delaying the construction in order to be ready for an enrollment that was there, not one that was just...
So where do you see South County from that perspective 10 years from now?
In 10 years, I would say that we'll continue to age in place, I think, because it's an expensive place to live, number one. A lot of younger people who are looking for work are leaving that area because it is expensive.
They can't afford it, yeah.
And so we will see some of that. We'll see some
what
of
What does that mean to the school district?
It means that we would start looking at, do we close some schools? Looking at long-term facilities and budgets. That's what we have to do, is figure out what are these trends look like, and then how do you fit that with the budget that's challenged?
Well, and you're with the budget, that's a huge budget, but I know it's also a challenging budget, right? So where does that current funding come from? How does that budget get met? I'm sorry, Ryan.
That's all right.
And are those levels that you're currently operating on, are they sufficient? Are we underfunded for the current needs? And then in the future, again, I'm assuming as we have lesser needs or things like that, is it going to continue to be the same level of difficulty, or is the trend that it's going to be more difficult or easier?
The way the current funding formula works, it was developed in Sacramento, and it's called local control accountability. And basically what that meant was that the state would give, based on a formula of what the demographics of children look like in those districts, give you a base level of funding and then some level of funding above that. For a district like Capo, who only has 10% of enrollment, which actually is a medium-sized district in other places in the state, 10,000 kids, English language learners, 10,000. Well, that part of our base is less significant than if you look at a place like Santa Ana. So we are actually funded, I think it's $110 million less because of that sort of funding.
But how do they calculate 10% attendance?
Based on English language learners.
Interesting. Okay.
Which which we have, like I said, about 10,000 of, but it doesn't rise to the level to bring the base up for us to give us more funding. And the way that creates challenges is that we're trying to balance between paying people, because we're a people business, and we can't teach children without teachers. But then also looking at like areas like San Clemente, which have some of the oldest campuses, how do we continue to invest in facilities that are aging and that require more and more work as the years go by? So that's the work that we've been doing and will continue to do as long as that funding formula stays the same.
And has that funding formula been in place a long time, or is it relatively? And when I say 40 years, 30 years, or how long has that formula been in place? Do you know?
It's been in place as long as this current governor has been there.
Okay.
And there are some benefits to it. I think local control is something that's appreciated at school districts. It used to be that every bit of money came in a certain bucket and you could only spend it a certain way, and if you didn't, then you sent it back to the state.
And that's what I was trying to get to. This was not always the case.
No.
It used to be different.
Yeah.
So in fact, the current situation, you may have less, but you have more say-so in where it goes.
You have more say-so.
Locally.
Yes. You have more say-so in where it goes, but less money.
Right.
So by 2021-22, we will only be funded at the level we were funded at in 2008. So that creates significant challenges for us. And that's a lot of the discussion that we continue to have in the district and with employees and with our community.
So what are some of the thoughts currently in trying to deal with that challenge?
Well, I think we had a bond measure on the ballot last November that was met with a lot of angst.
Yeah.
Through that discussion and through the vote, which we lost, it was really about, okay, we got to gather all the people together, the mayors and the community and city leaders and electeds, and come up with a plan that everyone's comfortable with at some point, where we could once again go and say, help us invest in our schools. Really the only option for school districts at this point to invest in facilities is to go through it either through parcel tax or a bond.
Well, and let me just preface this for other people. The school district works in relationship with communities, but it's its own entity. I mean, the school properties are school property.
Correct.
They're not city-owned properties.
Correct.
Right? So when you say work with the mayors and the city councils of different cities, that is a slightly different approach, because now you're basically saying the utility that these services that are school-based, that are in your community, are needing attention, and the way that we are now basically faced with the challenges that we're faced, we need community input to help us figure out solutions. Right. More so than maybe in the past. Right. Okay. And just again, for people that are not aware of this, versus aware ad nauseum about it, right? The way that the school district is structured is there's actually board of trustees.
Correct.
And there's representatives from different districts, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so those districts don't necessarily match with the borders of a particular town. They may be some overlap, for example.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So again, how many trustees are on the board?
We have 7 trustees representing all of the areas
that
of
whole
the district.
South County area.
Correct.
Right.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Has that settled down? Because a number of years ago, and I'm sure this is a question that most people would not want to answer if they were in your shoes, but it was crazy at Capo. I mean, they had a recall.
Settled down? Hello, have you been paying attention?
No,
to
I
what
haven't.
we're
I
talking
haven't.
about?
But because they had as I recall, this was when my daughter was in high school, which was 5, 6, 7 years ago. They had a recall, and an angry group of people rose up and recalled the board. And then that group came in, and they were just as unpopular, and there was a recall against them. And in fact, I think there was a documentary made about the anger and fighting and whatnot going in the district, some of which centered around the buildings that you guys built, which I never quite understood. You have to have administrative buildings, and some people thought they were too big and too fancy or whatever. And I don't really know what the fight was really all about all the time.
Well, I mean,
I don't know.
Look, let's just repeat again, right? How big is the budget?
$477 million.
Okay, as my good friend Bill Baskin, who I'm going to give a shout to, says, whenever I ask him a question, I walk in very passionately and say, what the heck is whatever, fill in the blanks. He says to me, the answer is money. What is your question?
Yeah.
Right?
So it's all about money?
Right. So my point, and Ryan, you correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understood during that whole thing was that there was expenditures made facilities built, okay, and the process by which those facilities were approved and built was basically not favorable to some people and how they felt it should have been done,
Right.
and how much money should have been spent. And there was a thing about, whose palm got greased and who basically benefited and whose friend is whatever. And in that capacity, I can tell you very, very, very fondly, or very proudly, maybe, that we haven't changed. We're still dealing with the same scenarios, different topics.
So is it still are there still angry groups that want to recall?
Is there angry groups?
I don't recall any anger since I have been there. No, I will
Yeah,
say
he
that
just dispelled the anger in 2 years.
Gone.
the issue was taxes, really, is what it came down to, and and specifically Melrose.
Melrose taxes, yeah.
The board of trustees has the option every year to look at those and reaffirm that they're gonna take taxes. The 100% they have to take in order to pay the bond back, and then they have to take another 10% to have a reserve on hand. There's nothing in the law, though, that states that they can't take more than that, and that's where the anger came from.
And where the money from the taxes should have been spent and
Right.
how it should have been spent.
Well, there's some law around that and CFDs and everything.
No,
but it
I'm
was
talking
really
about the reaction that the certain parts of the community had.
and it was about taking more than they needed.
But taking it from where I'm lost. You lost me on this. So Melrose is an extra tax that got added after Prop 13 was put in place to help fund schools and roads and infrastructure and whatnot, right?
Correct.
And
More
so when
than
you
schools,
when
for
you
sure.
buy a house, when you buy it, more than schools, right? When you buy a house like I did in South County, I live in the area. There's a Melrose that's on for 20, 25 years, something like that. I forgot how long it lasts, something like that. And it's an extra, and I think in our case it's an extra 1.5. So we pay instead of
But it's also on the, and I use the word gingerly, but the more recent developments. Okay, some of the
not
older
the old
developments don't have that settled
Right.
with it. So I think what you're getting is the pockets of people during this fight that you're talking about, Paul.
Right.
Is the pockets of people that were impacted by Melrose. Those are the people that basically voiced an opinion that, hey, wait, hold on a second, we think you should spend it this way or that way or on this that's closer to us.
And you're taking more than you need.
Right.
And
Right.
so the board last year
out of the
voted-
Melrose tax, is that where they
Yes.
get to
The
tear?
board voted last year to terminate the use of PAYGO funds, which was really one of the big issues, was the above 110%.
Right.
They don't do it anymore. So they take just enough back to pay off the bonds and to have a reserve, and they refinance. And I think when they did it this August, it was a savings of $50 million for taxpayers.
Yeah, but I think there's also, Ryan, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, there's also an issue where Tolega, for example, in San Clemente, that had Melrose, that the money was going to basically build something in San Juan. And there was a little bit of like, wait a minute, we got facilities that are decaying down in San Clemente High School, and you're building this facility on the other side, which now is connected by La Pata.
Right.
But people had an issue where our money that you're collecting. So again,
Yes.
let's remind everybody, the district's responsibilities run from Rancho Santa Margarita all the way down to San Clemente and cover all that area left and right side of the 5.
Right.
And so the decisions being made are being made at district level in terms of the needs of the district and the population distributions. So that was part of the issue. And that has gotten to a certain point entrenched. And to Ryan's point, last year there was a discussion done to try to rectify some of that. But I think part of the rooted dissent in South County regarding Capistrano Unified, right, still is there based on this sort of older attitude.
But didn't
and I think hold on a second, Paul. And I think with the current change in challenges, where the funding has to be from a bond issue or things of that nature, we're tapping into some of this stuff again and saying, well, hold on a second, Capo is not to be trusted. Capo, and unfortunately, there may be some truth in the past about this. There may even be some relevance today to be cautious. But what it doesn't address is that we as a district and as communities in that district are challenged in a different way today, and we still have to come up with solutions. And whereas before maybe the decisions were being made at the Board of Trustees, I'm glad to see that there's maybe a more of a reach out to other communities to be vested in that solution development.
No,
So-
there has to be, because if we don't,
There's no other way of us
if we
doing
don't
this.
have the trust and
Right.
respect of the community, we can't get our work done.
So that was
That
my
was the lesson
Yeah.
of Measure M.
Yeah.
I think.
That was the question I wanted to ask. So when they went then, for a while, it was people were just elected at large. And the criticism was, well, a handful of people representing a handful of areas in the district.
At the time that you're talking about of that original fight, yeah.
That
Right.
most of the people come from just these affluent handful of little pocket areas here, and the rest of the district they don't speak for or think of or represent. So we went to districting now, and so if you represent one district with these couple of areas and somebody else, didn't that make it feel like it was more responsive to all those other areas that felt like they weren't getting their voice heard? No?
I would say yes, in the sense that there was a law that actually, I think it was a lawsuit that actually created the district or the areas for city councils and others that they're going to. But it does allow for an even distribution of electeds across the district.
Well, it's very similar. In fact, Cabo Unified went through this in a way prior to places like like Anaheim, or efforts to redistrict in other places like Fullerton, right? There was a basic tenet that there was not that the concentration of people was coming from one particular area, and therefore other areas were not represented, and it fed into that. You're not representing me, you're not representing me.
Right, you're not spending money in my area,
so
just in your area.
If you actually think about it, that was the first step in the right direction, which now I'm hearing that involvement with municipalities maybe and the Board of Trustees, that's sort of a natural evolution, I think, of that more representation, equal representation. And then we're seeing it play out in the form of city council, in Anaheim basically having to go to districts,
Right.
other places now coming up in 2018 basically having that on the ballot. So but it's going to be an ongoing battle for limited resources and where they go and who gets to say where they go.
So let me say this again. I'm just going to throw this out as a parent who raised a child in the district. I lived in Rancho Santa Margarita. My daughter went to Tesoro High School, which was up until San Juan, the newest high school they had built. And I will say this, as a parent who really wasn't understanding all these fights going on and why everybody was so angry and what there was, I can tell you that my daughter received an outstanding education. A girl with special needs that was given everything and more that anybody could come up with. Other parents I knew, we all thought, particularly at Tesoro, it's a brand new school, state-of-the-art programs, outstanding teachers, test results, everything. I had nothing but a positive experience through the whole thing.
As a parent.
And that's why I was trying to understand where the anger is coming from, because compared to other school districts, like Santa Ana, that's perennially challenged by lack of funds and overcrowding and all this stuff, we weren't having problems in the schools. I didn't see. Maybe they didn't like the way the money was being allocated between different parts of the district.
Well, and there's a certain thing as benchmarks, for example, that are maybe at the state level as far as size of classrooms, right? But then there's also a human factor that is very subjective of how big do you think the classroom should be? What is the retention and attention, basically, number of students to teacher ratio? There's a little bit of subjectiveness, and I think parents that are very just engaged and involved, I think they're overly aware of what they would prefer. And sometimes that can be met, and sometimes it's not.
But compared to so many other districts, we're so much better. I don't know I thought it was outstanding.
No, and I appreciate you sharing that personally as a parent, Paul. I think that sometimes gets lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
The other thing
is the quality of what was coming out.
We have a lot of accolades for the district, right? I mean, there's a lot of schools that are Blue Ribbon schools. There's a lot. What in general is the ranking of the district as far as the quality of education?
And whatever metrics you want to use.
Because I think that's important. Sometimes that gets lost in the shuffle.
We're the top performing large school district in the state.
Say that again.
Top performing large school district in the state.
What's the next closest one? Do you know?
I just looked at the stats because we're getting ready to release our latest test results. I can't remember what the next one is.
Okay, we are the best performing.
And large school district. Yeah, so of our size in comparison, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's formidable. I mean, that speaks volumes, I think, to the quality of
supports
education.
what I saw on the ground as an anecdotal evidence. A girl that had very special needs, they were met well, and everybody that I interacted with, people were pleased.
Just to give a time frame idea, when did your daughter basically?
See, she's 25 now, so this is about 7 years ago.
So 7 years ago, your experience with the school district,
positive,
and what Ryan just said about the current results in terms of ranking, shows a consistency in my mind of almost a decade of providing that quality,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
And I was there at the height of the ugliness, at the height of the recalls and the fights and all the other stuff here, when people were trying to bombard us with this message that Capo can't be trusted and they're awful and they're horrible and fire the bums and throw them out. I'm like, why? I'm seeing great results. I don't know. Maybe there is misuse of funds, or maybe.
Can I just be completely, because it's such out of character for me. Can I just be completely jaded,
Okay.
and cynical?
You?
Okay, yeah.
Mr. Positive?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm positive all the time, right, Paul? Thank you. Your check cleared, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Honest to God, and again, referencing Bill, in my mind, because I was there, I was involved in a couple of those slates for elections, 2 or 3 cycles, right? I
Yeah.
saw it. Okay, and I didn't have kids in the district. I didn't really. I'm neither Democrat or Republican.
Right.
Okay. I usually
commie, you anarchist.
I'm a friggin' anarchist that has a lab coat, and I try to do helicopter view of things, because I'm just kind of like that. I'm a scientist experimenting with people's lives, right? But I'm joking. But my point is this: I'm reviewing all of this stuff, and I'm looking at all this stuff, and to honestly, after all this period of time, I understand the passion that the parents have for trying to ensure the best quality education for their kids.
Clearly.
Okay, totally. And I wouldn't even begin to pretend what that means inside the house on a daily basis. But from what I could see is that the quality of education was phenomenal in comparison. Now, granted, I can say, well, maybe we don't have concentrations on STEM, with sciences should be more. We're not really competitive in what we're teaching relevant to what this needs in the future.
Yes.
You can make all kinds of arguments for that. But as a public school system, overall, that continued to basically be applauded and accolades given and all this stuff, the only thing I could figure out is that this school system is such a large enough entity that has such a purse of money,
Right.
okay, that it comes down to who controls the purse strings.
I guess
And
so.
if I don't like you being the person controlling the purse strings, then I'm going to basically figure out whatever the heck it is that I'm going to point out to, because I want to get my person or the person I believe could do a better job. I'm not knocking the fact that in some cases that was legitimate.
Right.
But I'm saying that you can't just filter everything through that and forget all the good stuff that comes out of this.
I think you found a way through this. I think, and again, this is just anecdotal on my part.
Again, I'm just cynical and jaded.
It's like who's going to be in charge and who's going to control the money, and then they would try and find some argument to support putting them in power.
I mean, if you're sitting in the bird seat to make decisions on which contract gets issued for facilities, which contract gets issued for material, for content, for whatever, that is, on the numbers that we're talking about,
big.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's basically, yes, it's a nonprofit or it provides a service, but it's a service agency. But that's money. I mean, that's dollars and cents. And I'm sorry, but I think that has a lot to do with it. Now, I'm not saying that everybody that basically finds fault with the Capistrano Unified School District or any school district doesn't have legitimacy in what they're finding fault with.
Right.
But I think sometimes people take advantage of that because there's a bigger picture.
It is popular
and it's control
in the
and
media,
influence of those purse strings,
particularly in the right-wing media, and on both sides, to say the school system, educational system is broken. I didn't find it to be.
I think both sides of the political fence use the public education system as a bouncing board, as a leverage wedge.
Because my personal
issue.
experience was, and the parents that I knew of other kids and stuff, none of us had a complaint as to the quality of the education our children were receiving.
So here's again, like I said, we are at a crossroad where the popular punching bag of Capistrano Unified School District in South County by some has now basically intersected with the toll road and the TCA.
Oh my God, another one.
Okay. But again, I'm all positive all the time, right? so Ryan's laughing.
So lay
his
out
ass
the
off.
argument that if the toll road is built, if the final segment is built, it's going to go.
I don't
past
think he was
what?
surprised that this was happening.
It's
going to
go. I will say this. Now, this is where you could get me on your side here, Rod, because I was shocked. It currently stops across the street from Tesoro. It literally stops at Oso there.
And let's remind people, that's the school that your daughter
My daughter went to.
Okay.
And were it to continue across the road, it would literally fly over, I think, the football field or right next to it or something here. I mean,
I think there's a bridge and then it's going to drop down.
So there's the Oso Bridge, and then it would fly next to Tesoro. I think where where you're thinking it may fly over a football field is the plans that they're looking at in San Clemente.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's been adjusted now to where it doesn't fly over the football field. Supposedly, who the heck knows, right? Because it's just this this pretty orange line that's on a map that has. I'm sorry, this is my designer side. Has no friggin' reality in scale. Okay.
Right.
Oh, look, I found the most fine-tip pen, and I just drew a little thin line. Right. It's now hugging the baseball field, right? Rather than flying over the football field. So you will not have it acting as a sun visor over you when you're watching the games for football, but you will see it right across the way.
So let me ask the hard question, since we have the representative. Now I'm going to punch the school district back again
well,
here after just praising
but hold on a second. I want to go, before we lose that connection, let's talk about the Oso Bridge or Tesoro Bridge, right?
Oso Bridge.
Oso Bridge, and then Tesoro, okay? Let's talk about Los Patrones Road that's there, right? Some will say that it's running way too close to the school property.
Right.
Okay. Is it in fact, and this is one of the things I want to kind of either address factually, is it running too close? I mean, I understand the word too close is subjective, right?
Right.
What is the rule of thumb on this?
And what's the district's view of this? Right.
I think the rule of thumb is 500 feet, but I've heard that it's as close as 100 just based on people looking at it on a map. The way that we would look at it as a school district is look at the environmental impact report and what does it say, and then based on how close it is, what does that mean that whoever the entity is that's building it, what are the mitigation things that they have to do in order to complete the EIR
to negate the negative impacts as per the EIR.
Yeah.
Okay. Who is the entity again? Who is the entity that is currently building it?
Right now, I believe it's the County of Orange.
Right. So it's not the toll road.
Right.
It's not the TCA, it's the County of Orange. Now, the conversation that's happening is there's nothing that stops the County of Orange to then somewhere down the road hand that over to the toll road through some agreement or whatever. And the discussion that's happening is if you build this bridge so close to the school, okay, and if you then take Los Patrones, which is supposed to be an arterial road, and turn
Is that the road behind Tesoro that sort of goes off behind
and basically turn that into possibly the toll road, you have basically now just opened the toll road vein down to San Clemente. Okay, and that's where the fight is happening on this. But again,
so you don't care what's going to do to my poor kids in Tesoro. You just don't want it to start a vein down to San Clemente.
No, that's not that's not the case. It is being piecemealed.
Well, that's
okay,
clear.
which is again usually illegal to do. You can't piecemeal some stuff. But again, it's the old joke. Welcome to the law firm of Smith and Jones. You want to talk to Mr. Smith that can write a contract that never can be broken, or you want to talk to Mr. Jones that can break any contract ever written?
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
So legalities aside, okay, this is where we're at. And I want it to be clear because we did actually have, and if it's okay to say, I think it is. We did have a meeting with Capistrano Unified a couple of weeks ago, I think. And the discussion came up relevant to this particular thing. And what can Capistrano Unified do? Now, I don't know the particularities, but we had a couple of attorneys in the room with us that were on our side of the equation. They weren't there from CUSD. And the discussion was, it seemed to me, as a layman, that the current approvals that have already been given to the bridge, to Los Patrones, to Tesoro, okay? The only thing that CUSD can do, what Ryan was saying, is to actually work through insisting on mitigation measures to address negative impacts that are identified by the IR.
Can't stop the route, but you can mitigate it.
Yeah, we can't stop a road from being built, but we can certainly get in there and say, hey, we have some pretty hefty concerns, and you need to tell us, how close is this to the school? And then based on that, where's the voice of the children in this?
Yes.
Well, and what needs to be done in order to mitigate those issues? And people will say, well, you can't. It's air quality and stuff like that. And I'm like, I totally get it. I understand that air quality. There was a report that you guys had that basically talked about the importance of air quality inside the schools.
Right.
But then there was the question is, well, what about air quality outside the schools? And then there's been a posting that's been circulated about having the freeway run so close to some of the schools in Los Angeles, and they literally have air scrubbers that are in those schools. So it's expensive. It's probably not what we want. We'd rather not have a road there generating all those fumes. But if you really wanted to look at it, at least what I'm being told is that CUSD, when it comes to that particular situation, Given where it is, it's kind of almost too late. All you can do is ask for mitigation measures to address the negative impacts. Is that pretty accurate?
Right. And I'm not sure at which part of the process we would have ever been able to be in there and say, no, you're not building it here. So I don't think we could have stopped that.
So let me ask the ugly.
Our voice is supposed to be there.
And why do you say that? Why do you say that you don't think you would have been able to?
I just don't. I don't think that we have the.
Is it a jurisdiction thing?
Yeah,
what is it?
I don't think we have the jurisdiction necessarily to stop that. But again, our voice being in there and saying, okay, what are you going to do to mitigate the whatever it is impacts?
So what about, and this goes beyond maybe where we're at in terms of the physicality of this corner, right, or the Tesoro and the bridge.
Because that's currently where the toll road stops, and that's the next segment they're going to try and build.
Right, but let me ask this. It is within your purview and jurisdiction as a district to demand, and maybe I would think it would be from the county versus TCA, which is sort of a joint powers agency, but you could probably demand from OCTA, for example, a report and study on the possible traffic impacts because of arterials and all that stuff, basically like an updated traffic study, right? To show if there's actually negative impacts that are going to happen on these schools.
Right. What would be pointed back to is the environmental impact report that was done the last time around.
But the environmental impact report was done relevant to a project, not relevant to the impacts of the district, like a current update, like where are we in terms of air quality and safety relevant to impacts on the school district facilities as per OCTA. And I'll tell you why I'm asking this. Because currently, the only information that's really out there that basically is getting traction is generated by TCA. And technically, I am seeing TCA, Transportation Corridor Authority, as a developer. And if they're generating a report that basically is saying X, chances are that report is presented that is favorable to what they want to accomplish. I'm not knocking it, that's just the way it is, right? So if there's another agency that is a county agency that is being asked to also provide information, one of two things is going to happen. Either that information is going to coincide and prove TCA's data, or it's going to show possibly other realities that we now can use to possibly address, at the very least, dealing with mitigations.
Right. So that's kind of where we're at, especially with the Oso Bridge project. So I believe it was the end of August, the board voted in closed session to initiate litigation against the county, and it was based on concerns over that EIR.
Okay.
And that's kind of where the district is at this point with the county in discussing that.
The Board of Trustees actually approved proceeding with it.
Correct.
Has it actually happened?
The actual litigation has not, because we are still talking to the county about the concerns and what that will look like overall.
And you're the spokesman for the district, so what is the district's position on the placement of these toll roads, the continuation of the toll road past this high school, and then we'll talk about San Juan and San Clemente, the three high schools that would be impacted by the continuation of the toll road? What's their position on the continuation of the toll road? No opinion for it, against it, or nothing we can say, all we can do is fight to make it as mitigated any damages that it causes?
So I think if you ask the Board of Trustees as individuals, they would all have different opinions on that. What they have done is they passed a resolution that did not specifically say no toll roads, but it did say we have concerns over any road that's going to go into impact with schools or student safety. So they did that this summer. And then again, as far as
I think that was a resolution that was brought on by Patricia Holloway, right? Yeah.
And then as far as looking at the actual EIR, and the thing is, for us, I mean, even for me, I have to have attorneys help me and guide me through this to understand what does all this complex stuff mean and how do we make it digestible for people.
Clearly.
Through that process is where the board got to initiate the litigation against the county about the Oso.
And the litigation is for what again? I'm lost. The litigation is for more information from the county?
Yeah, what did the board
What are you suing for? What are you potentially suing for?
The litigation and what was announced in closed session, or outside of closed session, was that it was regarding concerns about the environmental impact report process. And that is as specific as we can be at this point because it is ongoing litigation.
So I'm not gonna ask you to be more specific. I was there, or we heard about that. No, what concerns me is maybe, I'd like to see it moved faster, but is there a time frame? Is there an idea of when? I mean, you're negotiating, you're talking to OCTA right now. At what point does that vote from the Board of Trustees actually take action and actually filing it?
Depends on the
are we
negotiation.
likely to not file it?
It's a negotiation going on.
What's the likelihood? I mean, 3 months from now, are we still negotiating?
It sounds like it's a sword of Damocles hanging over their head.
No, but
right.
because there's another factor. All the while that this is happening, there's mass earth moving happening, and grading happening, and all this stuff, and it's moving at rapid speed and possibly even at night.
Right.
So this negotiation time frame has other things taking place at the same time.
Right.
Because again, CUSD is going to basically get hammered on the fact that, well, wait a minute, why isn't this moving faster?
Right. So our legal counsel is working with county council on all of that. I can't give a time frame, but I know that if there was a time when the negotiations or the discussions broke down, then the board would move forward with that litigation.
Okay, so I have another.
We only got a minute or two left because we got your next show right today.
No,
there's not another show.
We don't have. Check out California. I'm going to give a plug. Check out California. Your key to California hospitality.
Okay,
that's next.
All
week.
right, so we got a little more time. All right, then.
Yeah. So I got some more time. No, and I want to address another thing because again, all of this again. Everybody's watching this thing like a hawk. I mean, oh my God! If you're bored, just move down there. Give me about half an hour, and you'll probably run for the hills after that. But there's other things that people are talking about, and it ties back to what we originally talked about, which is basically facilities being underutilized or not having the population or student body demand on it. So I know a topic, for example, came up about the Ole Hansen School in San Clemente, which sits higher than the main campus for the high school. And the discussion about the fact that school has been pretty much like not utilized for a while. Now I understand that there's asbestos issues and stuff like that, but again, the primary reason is we haven't needed it because we don't have the population to basically put in there, right?
Right.
Okay, so there was a concern. We got this school that's basically kind of in the path of the toll road that basically is underutilized or not being used, and is this going to be turned around and sold to the toll road agency, DCA, or whoever it is as an intermediary, because the school district tried to get a measure through the voters last time, and it failed, and the school district needs money in order to continue to provide services or upgrade facilities, and now there's this piece of land that is not being utilized that could potentially be sold in order to make up for that stopgap.
So I would say, first of all, let me just
correct.
And
let's talk specifically about that because
let me just correct the upper lower campus.
Okay.
We did not close the upper campus necessarily because we had lower enrollment. What happened was we had 9th grade freshmen up at the upper campus, sort of disconnected from the rest of the high school until they started their sophomore year. So that was one concern. The other one was that we had the opportunity to build the new classroom building with 24 classrooms in it, and move the 9th graders down. And I will say, based on the level of excitement from teachers and families and kids that we met last year when we did the grand opening for it, sort of celebration, was huge because it unites a whole campus. It also allows us to be a little bit more efficient, that we have students and administrators all in one place. The other issue is the age of Ole Hansen and the amount of work and money that would be required for ADA and asbestos. So there were kind of a few things going on there.
Which to be honest, is probably going to be something we face more and more with these older facilities, right? Across the county.
So they shut that old school down and moved the kids down into a new and expanded.
It's not completely shut down, so it's still operating in some capacities, and we do have plans to level the MPR. Leaving
what's the NPR?
The multi-purpose room, leaving some classroom space up there.
To give people an idea, this sits on a ridge almost overlooking the high school, so it's adjacent to it. It's just not on the same elevation.
Right. It used to be an elementary school.
Used to be an elementary school. Ole Hansen used to be an elementary school. And so it was repurposed.
Because I've been to that high school.
It was repurposed for an upper campus for the high school.
Right.
And 9th graders were there, and then they basically moved everybody to the lower river, which is right off Pico.
Right.
So your fear is that they're going, because they need the money, they're going to sell this to the toll road, take the money and run, and, help encourage the toll road.
I'll tell you what. I understand, because there's other plans, at least proposed, yet where's the money going to come from? We don't have the money yet. Okay, there's plans proposed that basically, again, this high school is an older facility that is in dire need for upgrades, and this would be an opportunity, for example, to put a state-of-the-art sports facilities in that area. Okay, that is very, high school, San Clemente High School is a very strong sports program. That this would be more in keeping and up to the level of what that high school should have.
Right.
However, the problem is we don't have the money.
Right.
Right. So again, and I said this when we met. I said, look, if you don't have the money, don't start demolishing anything until you have the money, because the minute you demolish, I'm just talking construction hat. The minute you demolish and then say, now we're going to go find the money, every day that is fenced off looks like it's an empty thing that makes it even more likely that it could potentially go somewhere else, right? And
get rid of that eyesore.
And to be honest, this recent thing that happened was with Las Ramblas. There's a piece of property that the school district has an option on in Las Ramblas that basically the discussion was, and I think even the Board of Trustees gave direction, right, that staff should go, and this is San Juan, this is not San Clemente now, right? Like I said, there's overlap that's, if you ask people on Las Ramblas, half of them will probably say we're really San Clemente. It's like Capo Beach, or, and the other ones will say Dana Point and San Juan. So the thing about that piece of property is that the school district has an option on it. They don't own it, they have an option on it. And the discussion, and I think the direction that was given from the Board of Trustees, is that to go ahead and negotiate with the city of San Juan to change that from a school zoning to a high-density residential. In order to then basically, I'm assuming, exercise the option and then turn around, and unless the school district is going to go into the construction business, sell it to a developer. Right. So now you're talking about, and what was it, like 300 units or something like that they were talking about?
Make a bunch of money,
it was a high density, whatever it was.
Buy it and flip it. Right.
Yeah. But so here's a school district who basically is being told, wait a minute, you got a campus in San Clemente that is, not really being used, and what you're planning to do with it, you don't have the money to do with it, and we're supposed to trust that it's not going to be open for the toll road to come and swipe up, right? And yet, right across the border in San Juan, we got this piece of property that was supposed to be a school. Now you're basically going into the real estate development business by trying to leverage it, sell it, put the money in the shortfalls of not having the bond measure.
Which is silly. So I would just say, first of all, if it's worth $6 million.
We specialize in silly here. We deal in silly here.
I'm not calling you guys silly. It's a silly argument, though. It's a $6 million. We would pay $6 million for it.
The property is worth $6 million for you guys to buy.
We would get creamed if we turned around and gave it to someone for $3 million, because it would be a gift of public funds. Yet we get creamed when we come up with an idea that would help us finance some other facility needs in our classrooms for our children.
Correct.
At $15 million.
Correct.
It is beautiful capitalism. So we're not giving up on that space yet either. We will. No, but we're going to re-engage with those communities and with the city council.
Why do you keep getting creamed?
These are very complex.
Why do you keep getting creamed whatever you're doing? You guys, you just said
emotion.
You're getting creamed for this. We're getting creamed for that. Well, emotions are real. I mean, and if somebody's been holding on to those for a decade, those are part of their DNA.
Yeah.
Right. So why do you guys keep getting creamed? I mean, I keep hearing about possibility of reaching out to me more than just now, right? Before the toll road issue even came up, right? I remember there was a discussion about, when San Clemente, there was a group of people in San Clemente looking to basically separate and form their own school district. There was an effort of, we're going to basically put a community, like some sort of work, what's it called, task force, and we're going to have it basically populated by community members. I haven't seen that come up.
We do have it.
You do have it?
Yeah.
Okay, so who's on it?
Facilities and Finance Committee. There's probably 30 individuals from around the district who applied for it. And
when was that formed?
It was formed earlier this year.
Okay.
And they've already been instrumental in some of the work that we've been able to do at the board, as far as looking at, do we invest money in new site analysis and things like that. They have come forward to say yes. So they are doing that work.
Where's that information, Ryan? Do you have a list of who's on this task force?
I could get a list, yeah.
Well, I think my point is, if it's buried internally,
right,
it does not doing you guys any favors.
And we just opened up recruitment again for that Facilities and Finance Advisory Committee. So
There you go, Rod. Get on.
No, I'm just asking because it's
out.
important. If you got vested people in the community that are known entities, and if that list is not put out there, then I basically constantly go to COSD and say, why aren't you guys doing the job? But if I have people I know that are on this task force, then at least I feel some representation is happening.
Can we take a quick break, because we've been talking for a while here, and then we'll come back and figure out how much longer we're going to wrap this up and what other issues you want to get to?
Thank you for bringing that up, because let's share that information with people.
Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Imagine what it would feel like to lose everything. Your job, your home, your family, your dignity. This has happened to thousands of the men, women, veterans, and young adults we serve at Working Wardrobes. What do we do to help? We provide career development services, life skills workshops, job skills training. We provide the perfect interview outfit, and we get clients placed in jobs. Call Working Wardrobes, 714-210-2460. Donate, volunteer, invest, hire.
When it comes to pioneers in their respective industries, we all know the Apples, Starbucks, and Trader Joe's of the world. In the realm of recruiting, Decision Toolbox is the industry's best-kept secret, with 90% of their business from referrals and repeat customers. For over 20 years, Decision Toolbox's U.S.-based team of recruiters, sourcers, professional writers, quality personnel, and tech support has perfected a Six Sigma approach to talent management. No matter the size of the project, Decision Toolbox delivers incredible results. A cost per hire less than half of what contingency firms charge, with the winning candidate presented in an average of 14 days, all with a 12-month candidate warranty. With results like that, Decision Toolbox won't be a secret for long. Visit us at www.dtoolbox.com for more information.
All right, we're back.
Okay, so
let's just set some timelines. So we got about 15 minutes.
We got about
to go.
15 minutes. So if anybody, listen, if anybody's still listening to us at this point and hasn't basically pulled their hair out of their heads, okay, Paul, do you have hair under that hat? Actually, you're always wearing that hat. I don't know.
Not much left after this show.
After this show, Toll Road. School district. Okay. No, these are really important, like, and we don't shy away from tough topics. If you're listening to us, or if you're watching us on YouTube, this is the time to call in, and I want to give the number out.
Yes.
Paul, go ahead.
949-330-7761. If you have questions about the Capo District, if you want to get this out on the table, let's do it now. 949-330-7761. And one of the things that came up when we were talking...
Operators are waiting, meaning Paul is waiting.
Operators are waiting. I think this is an important issue that you touched on, and maybe you don't want to go there, but I think we should. Do people... Given the history, what we went through in the first half hour, the recalls and the anger and them fighting over the money and all this other kind of stuff that went on in this district for a number of years, and now we got the toll road issues that the district's getting pulled into again. Do people, where's the district at in terms of people trusting the district? Do you think that people trust the district enough, or are they still operating under, no,
and let's
we
be
don't
very
like
specific, okay?
Yeah.
Capistrano Unified School District, do we have a trust problem?
Do we have... Well, yes, I would say that we do in certain segments and certain parts of the population. I think families in the district, for the most part, are good. Their kids are getting a great education.
Mine sure did.
And they're focused on other things.
Well, the people who don't have a problem with you aren't the ones basically screaming.
But there is a trust issue. I mean, we saw that come up from the cities last year during Measure M, and the anger that came from the cities and from other constituents didn't just show up. So it was there for a while.
It got channeled into
Measure M.
And then
we sort of ripped the Band-Aid off of it, which is...
And let me give you an anecdotal reply to that. I always trusted the district based on the experience I had with it. But I heard all this anger, which I couldn't quite understand. And I think Rod identified. A lot of it's just fight over money.
Oh, I had a problem with Measure M. I thought the way that it was being rolled out was not the best.
I did have a problem with Measure M. And I felt
it's like the frigging Hail Mary last attempt by the GOP to basically get health care.
Exactly.
And
if you haven't heard this before, this was my objection why I voted against it after some thought. Because my inclination was to trust the district. I don't distrust the district, unlike some other people. Here's what I questioned and felt uncomfortable about. It was the same argument made by Frank Urey here when he came in here, the former mayor of Mission Viejo, and some others. It's a lot of money. I think you were asking for, what, $1 billion?
$889 million.
Yeah, a lot of money with no clear no clear plan of how it's going to be spent. It's just we can give you lots of ideas of how we might spend it.
We had the most detailed resolution for that bond measure than any other in the state of California.
Then that didn't get conveyed to me, the voter.
Well, it wasn't conveyed because of the messiness, I think, moving up to that. I mean, we even had OC Tax tell us that we met their criteria. So
and they're tough, yeah.
And they are tough. It was the most detailed, but there was messiness moving up to it. And
talk about what kind of messiness when you say messiness.
Well,
what kind of stuff?
The same things that you just told us. It was too much money and maybe not enough detail was a perception of it.
Yes, that was my perception.
There
of it.
was a discussion of whether the facilities master plan from 2008 was too old and was built on more of a dream and a wish list. Those were the words that were used in the community than specific needs, which is stuff we heard. And one of the reasons the Facilities and Finance Committee, we were able to show them the new site analysis that we're doing, and we will roll out for every school in November. So every school will have a site analysis that is specific to like the basics, like the doorknobs and carpet, basically, of what schools
need. So let me just ask you, Ryan. Okay, if it's okay, you tell me if it's not, right? Who are the representatives from San Clemente?
I'd have to look at the list. I don't know all of them, like geographically where they're from.
Okay.
But we have them from throughout the.
Okay. Because for Paul, who basically has a positive reference to Capo Unified, to tell you that when this thing came out, this Measure M came out, he basically thought it was too much and unclear.
Right.
Should tell you something.
Yep.
Right? This is the positive ear that's telling you.
Yeah, I came from
me that I'm looking at it sort of objectively kind of had a similar scenario, right? And I'm basically usually when somebody, I'm hearing it from certain channels, I'm usually turning a complete deaf ear to it.
Right.
Right? So know your audience, right? And I think this has been a common problem. I mean, I know it's not the same leadership and it changes over time, but I think there's a chronic situation where the trust continues to deteriorate, or maybe at least is stagnant, right? And there's something needs to happen.
So I don't think it's deteriorating. I don't think it's necessarily stagnant. I think we're building.
It's a recurring problem that pops up over and over again.
Hold on. He's the chief communications officer. So
it is, but I think that we have made strides in engagement, especially over this last year, where like we just rolled out a plan that we worked with electeds from Aliso Viejo and Mission Viejo that were two of the most vocal against the district as far as the measure went.
Right. Frank Urey and others from Michigan.
Where we sat down with them and said, look, these are the numbers of what is left in your Mello-Roos fund that we terminated last year. It's $11 million. We want to figure out how to spend it on facilities because Aliso Viejo, Aliso Niguel needs some, Newhart Mission Viejo needs some. Let's do this work together. And we got there to the point where the mayors were agendizing resolutions in support of plans that were passing city councils that were coming back to us and saying.
So how do I, Joe, citizen in the street, find out about that? These conversations that are happening between a city council member and the school district, how do you guys get that information out to build that trust even further?
Right.
Because if you're putting these actions into place, if you're doing this, I understand it's going to take time. But for people that are in the know, don't know. So what are you guys looking at different ways to convey that information, engage those communities, get that information out? Because, I mean, obviously there's a need for that.
Yes.
Otherwise, we're going to keep repeating that same situation that happened with Measure M.
Right. So
and previously before with recalls.
Right, but I mean, let's just go to that because
Yeah.
I think there was a moment of aha for the school district if should they choose to implement it, which I think they are aware of it. Okay, is what happened with Measure M. There was a moment of wait a minute, let's study this, let's look at what happened because, like Ryan was saying, as we go further. As we have less student body maybe, as we have less maybe support from the state level, we're going to have to depend on ourselves locally to make decisions on what we want to see happen with our public education system.
Right.
So yes, one of the things that we constantly do is try to measure what has the communication been, what avenues have we used and everything else, and then what's new. What can we do new and differently? Are there other strategies? Are there other places? So this year specifically, the goals for communications and for the district is to strengthen community relations. It is the rally cry for the entire school district, down to where we're asking site leaders, what is your plan to help us do that? Because they have to be there in the streets, in those communities, helping to educate too. Part of what we will be doing is visiting every Rotary who invites us, every community group that's getting together that wants people to come in to talk about what is our funding, what are our challenges, what do our facilities look like, what are our successes. Getting out in front of all of those people to do that work and to teach them. And then to tell them what we're doing with mayors, what we're doing with the mayors' roundtables, and doing tours of the campuses, the new buildings, site analysis, like with the Kitchell report and Ambule, which was the first new site analysis we did. Building a plan, getting engaged people and others interested and on board and supportive of it, going through with the plan, and then showing people, look, we can do this work. And
so
we
what's
can do
the
it
one
way
thing you would like to convey today to all those listening today and tomorrow, that a misunderstanding or a message that's not getting through or hasn't gotten through? What would you like to do? You've got the mic now here. Take it and tell the people, talk to them directly. What are they missing?
I think what they're missing is that maybe they don't know that they can come to us and ask us to be engaged. And that, I mean, I can go out and ask Rotaries and other clubs and organizations, hey, we want to be in front of you, but it's you can come to us and do the same thing. We want to know about whatever it is, and we will build that and put
You're
it
here
together.
to talk to people.
You know why people don't know? Because I think, I don't know why, but I think as the district, not you, but as a district, this district hasn't really done that outreach. And I don't know why. I don't know whether it's just, again, one of those cases
give you
where
one
we're
example.
just in our own little fiefdom and we basically do our
I'll
own
give you
thing
one
or whatever.
example of that. Not
But
just
I think, hold on, but I think that there's a reason why people don't know. They don't know because that outreach has not been done before, which is a little bit mind-boggling, but that's the history.
Right.
I'll give you one other example. I'm going to go into the Wayback Machine when you guys built the big new office buildings and stuff off of the 5 there
The
or something.
headquarters, yeah.
And that was at the center of the first recall, as I recall, that they built a palace and they spent too much money and blah, blah, blah. I never knew where that came out. As an ordinary parent, I see the need for bringing this all together into a common facility. I'm all for a state-of-the-art facility if it helps the district do its job. But I never really understood what the building was and what went into it, whether it was too much. I never knew.
When your kids are going to school that has lack of air conditioning, and you're seeing somebody spend that kind of money,
right?
It is easy to see that your priorities seemingly are askew.
Yeah, and it came down to taxes again.
And it came down to taxes. And it came down to
So I'm
taxes.
saying
And it will always come down to
I was willing to support the district, and then I never really decided whether it was a good idea or a bad idea. I listened to both arguments. But I never really knew anything about the substance of what was built there. What was built? What did it cost? Why did they build it that way? To evaluate whether it was.
There's your outreach and community information.
I never knew.
Dissemination that did not happen.
I never knew.
And I think
same thing with Measure M.
But I think the same thing just happened with the thing with going to San Juan. It's easy. And the same thing that happened with Measure M. Oh, we just assumed that.
So there was outreach with the issue in San Juan. It was just.
So what?
We just need to do it again.
So why did you say it seemed easy, but then turned out to be, I'm assuming, more difficult than it was?
Yeah, well, it's similar to issues that I had faced even at the sheriff's department, whereas you think you have briefed people and given them all the information that you need, and what you're hearing back is, we're good. And then a bunch of other stuff coming out that goes back to the heart of maybe a lack of trust or whatever, and so. It created an issue in this case of maybe misunderstanding and everything else, where we have to start over on that process.
Is it an issue of not allowing enough time?
I don't think so.
For the outreach?
I don't think so.
Is it the channels that you?
I think it's a lack of channels. I think it's a lack of channels.
Well, what we will do this time is specifically engage the homeowners around that area. So that's what we're looking at. Is let's not just work on educating the city council,
because you engage the representatives,
right,
but you're not necessarily the homeowners.
But let's share the plan and let's share the why this is good for everyone, not just the district. Why it's good for that area, and then what that timeline looks like. So, if we got the land and we were able to say we want it used for housing and it gives us a higher revenue if we sell it, we sell that property, and then the development works with the city to come up with what that plan looks like. So it wasn't a done deal last week like I think many maybe thought it was. And so, but it's more of engaging of, okay, what were your concerns in this case? What do you want this to look like in the future? How can we find a space where everyone's good with it and we could move forward with it?
Let me ask you something. I mean, I think
Couple minutes.
I think I know the answer. Let's go back to that piece of property on Les Rambles. Okay, you have an option. You can exercise that option and buy it, and then basically at that point, now that you bought it, turn around and sell it. Okay. Just to be clear for everybody, the zoning at that point would still be as a school.
The zoning at that point, if we sell it to a developer, we would want to sell it as a piece they could develop.
Bear with me, Ryan. You exercise the option to buy it. You don't change the zoning when you do that. And I want you to poke holes through this, right?
Correct.
Then you turn around and now you put it on the market. And now it is still zoned as school. So the zoning hasn't changed yet. If you exercise the option, you buy the piece of property, and now you say, okay, well, it's surplus.
But they wouldn't put it on the market.
Assume that you had bought this a few years ago, for example, right, with the intention to do a school, never gets built. Now I got a piece of property that's surplus. Now I'm basically doing it. Somebody has to still change the zoning on it to allow for other possible developments.
The city would, and what we would want to do is not ever buy it. So what we would want to do, we have an option for that land. We would like it rezoned. At that point, we would give up the option and give it and work with the developer on it. Then the developer would work with
What's
the
in
city.
it for the school district?
Well, it would be higher proceeds for us that we could invest in schools.
Right. So there's a financial benefit to that rezoning.
Right.
Okay. And that money would then go into
something else.
Right. So I think this is where the crux of the matter is, if I'm hearing what Paul is saying too. If you're going to do something like that, I'm going to want to know, what are you planning to use with that extra money?
Right.
And over what kind of time frame?
Bingo.
Right? And if it takes you 6 months to convey that information to everybody that is on the street level, knocking doors, whatever it is, then that's what needs to happen. I understand the inefficiency of that, because if I just go to the city council and I talk to them and they buy into it, great, terrific, done, it's easy, like you said, right? But the reality of the situation
nobody goes to city council meetings.
But the reality of the situation, and most people don't react to something until the news is already out.
Right.
Most people are reactive and not proactive.
That's the problem all city governments have at the state.
They're too busy. They've got a lot of stuff on their
So
plate.
let's just point that out. So you go to the city council, and you think you're dealing with the people who are the people's representatives, and maybe they put it in a newsletter that nobody ever reads, and they put it on a bulletin board somewhere that nobody ever sees, and 5 people and a dog were at the city council hearing that day, and you think, it's done. We've done all we can do. And then all of a sudden, some group grabs a hold of this and starts sending it through social media, through emails, through newsletters, through rallies,
the story
through
gets
meetings.
skewed, and it gets filtered and gets colored and all this stuff. And that's that. And again, I think the understanding is not, why don't they trust us?
Right.
I think the starting point is, we have a trust problem, and we got to build it. And even if we have to go the extra mile to do it, because it's never going to get easier.
So I'm going to suggest that you come up with some new. I'll give you one on the air here. I'll make an offer here. OC Talk Radio is one platform that doesn't get used enough. It's podcasting. And it isn't just the audience listening today. It's the audience that this can be shared with and put on websites. It's a shareable. It's another form of social media.
Ryan's headache doesn't end when we turn off the cameras.
No, exactly.
Every time
I think you should find a medium. We'd be happy to work with you at the school district. Maybe we develop some weekly show for you, something. Yes, we'd have to charge you a little something, but we'd make it a screaming deal. If this could be used as a way to hold conversations and then share them. This conversation could get shared on city websites. It could get shared by community groups. It could share. People could literally call in and participate.
You know what, Paul?
You need other. If not this, you need to find forums that other than just going to the city council.
Right. And that's why I kind of invited Ryan to be here, because I think it's not so much as having a channel that's just pushing. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's having that discussion and engagement.
Oh, it has to be.
If you're just putting out information,
press releases,
that's only going to get you so far. Whether it's video, whether it's audio, whether it's just paper, press releases, email blasts, it's only going to get you so far towards that trust goal that you have. The only way you are going to get that trust is to engage people. We started by saying we can disagree, we can have civil discourse, right? The only way that you build that trust and a sense that you are being respected both ways is to actually engage.
Well, I'm saying the
And
power
if that happens to be in the neighborhood level, then it's at the neighborhood level. If it's not at the dais of the city council, then it's at the neighborhood
I don't disagree with that, but I just think that given the nature, people are busy. It is hard to reach them until suddenly then they're like, why didn't anybody tell me? Like, we've been trying to tell you, but nobody's listening. Podcasting is a more engaging, like social media, is a way to engage people and share that engagement so they can initially participate in conversation. People could be calling in today here, but so far nobody has. So. And then we say, gee, I guess nobody's interested. And then all of a sudden tomorrow they're all mad. So I think you have to find a place where people gather, and I think it has to be online today, where they come to engage with you, and then you share that with others.
You know what? I know the platform that we're on here is online, but I will tell you what my experience has been relevant to the toll road, for example.
Right.
Okay? That only goes so far.
Well, I understand. You got to go meet. You got to press the flesh. You got to meet
There's
people.
a reason why every candidate, until they get lazy and get used to being in their chair, when they start running for office, knocks on every door, shakes hands, walks the districts, walks the neighborhood. That is the only way that you engage with people, because most people are busy with their daily lives.
You got to chase them down.
They might give you 5 minutes.
Well, one thing that we've realized that for us is it's being everywhere. So it's not one or two or three things, but trying to figure out how we could really be in front of people and have those conversations together.
Well, I suggest that here's one thought you could do, which is create a podcast, a weekly podcast.
And we have
people
radio on our list, actually, to look at this year.
I'd love to talk to you about that offline, because I think we could help you facilitate that, and that would be one part. It's another way to engage with people and have a conversation with them and then share that conversation.
I think as long as it's an exchange, and again, I'm looking at the core of the problem. The core of the problem is that there seems, accurately or otherwise, a lack of deep involvement and engagement. I mean, the fact that I don't know who's sitting on that task force after it's been operating for how long?
8 months.
8 months, almost a year, right? It's a small community down there, right? Those people should be not outed, but they should be applauded for taking an active role in this, and it reflects well on the school district. It also reflects well on everybody who knows them, that they're basically putting their time and energy.
But it's also up to those members who are volunteering. Why are they staying silent? Why aren't they walking around the community saying, hey, I'm on this new committee, and here's what I'm doing,
because most people that volunteer for something like this are not doing it to basically blow their own horn. They're doing it because they feel a sense of responsibility to engage. Okay? So I'm not saying
But they got to get feedback.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is,
if they're speaking for you,
something like that. Like I don't know who it is. That's why I asked you who it is, right? But if Ryan throws at me some names that are recognizable people in the community in San Clemente, I'm gonna all of a sudden go from, we have no representation. I'm being sarcastic, right? But we have no representation. Oh my God, there's actually people watching out.
And I would say,
and I go,
for either side of that, then I would ask that, if they feel like they have no representation, either that they engage and participate in the process, or they find someone who will. I think what has been helpful is in some cities like Mission Viejo, only because I live there, having people who have been close to the more vocal individuals on this advisory committee, asking the tough questions, but then finding the answers they're looking for has been helpful. But I would expect that anyone who wants to do that should engage with us.
Let's wrap this up.
Let's not wrap this. A perfect place to leave it, right? You said a few minutes ago that particular task force is looking for now new members. Right? How do people find out about that? How do they either volunteer somebody or bring it to somebody's attention, or themselves basically come and engage?
They can go to our website. I know that we put out to 56,000 families in August, September, in relation to the Mello-Roos and all of that news. We put out another recruitment, so it went to all families. We have put it in our newsletters, and so and all those places telling, please go to this link, fill out the Google form. So basically, you're in.
Where can they find the link?
They can go on the front page of the website,
which is what?
capousd.org.
Okay.
And then there's a menu that will say "Get Involved," and they'll see it on the right-hand side.
And what are they looking for when they click on "Get Involved"?
They're looking for the Facilities and Finance Advisory Committee.
Facilities and Finance Advisory Committee.
Sounds like Rod's going to be going there right after this.
No.
You should. Why
Huh?
not? You should.
You know what? I think you also have to understand.
You have a design background.
No, but you have to understand your limitations as far as commitment. I mean, like, if you have the time to commit to something like this, then you need to make sure that you commit to it versus just basically be there. And I think you'll probably end up with a mix of people that are just going to watch and people that are going to participate. That's just group dynamics. But I think this is a very critical thing, and I think it's a great step in the right direction. I'm glad you guys are doing this. I am going to be curious of who's on there.
I know we have builders, financiers, real estate. We have a city council member. There's a whole breadth of perspective and experience.
And let me ask this question.
Yeah.
Do you have to have kids in the school district?
No.
Or what are the requirements? That you live in the district?
Yes.
Okay.
And who picks it? Let's say 500 people want to apply for 5 positions here. Who decides this?
Unfortunately, we haven't had that kind of interest, so everyone who applied is on.
How many members do you have on it now?
I want to say somewhere around 30. And it appears, based on what I looked at last time, Laguna Niguel is sort of the most
concentrated.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So kind of like anybody that applies, you're on the group. You're in.
Now, ultimately, we would want it balanced, but we...
Right now, you're just trying to fill people on there.
And how often do they meet, or what's required to be?
They're meeting about once a month right now, but they also have an ad hoc that has been meeting as well. School's back in session, so they might go ahead and add more meetings, but they had one last week. And
what is the purpose of the committee? Were they going to produce something, or are they just an oversight?
It's an oversight, and I tend to look at it more like a grand jury. So what we did not want to do is have an advisory group or a task force that we were sort of telling them what to do. Mm-hmm. They are telling us what they want, and then it's our job as staff to get the resources they need and the information, have them put it together and help and use us to inform that process, but ultimately to go to the board and to make recommendations.
You got to get on this thing, Rod. Come on, you got to get on this thing. Let's rally Rod to the point here.
Paul keeps wanting to volunteer me for stuff. Okay, Ryan, it's been around for 8 months. Just very quickly, 1 or 2 items that they basically have tackled, or something that's come out of this
feedback
engagement.
they've come back with.
So one of the big things they looked at was there was a group of people who wanted to look at how Measure M failed and what the different levels of failure in it were. So they just did a report to the group last week on that. Not to the full board yet, but basically looking at where were the strengths and weaknesses of that and what do we do different. The other big thing for that was helpful to us was from hearing about the facilities master plans being old and outdated and wish lists. Mm-hmm. The district staff went back to the drawing board and said, what can we do to at least help the community understand what our schools need right now? Mm-hmm. We did the ambule side assessment. We gave it to the facilities and finance committee to look at. And then through that work, strengthening sort of their confidence in the facilities plans, they actually went to the board, several of them did, when we were asking the board, we need you to invest $600,000 in this work. Mm-hmm. You'll get a report for each school that will show doorknobs, roofs, and that kind of thing. It was actually the advisory committee that sort of swayed some of the trustees to say, okay, we'll make this investment right now, because basically it allowed people who were against Measure M, who are on the advisory committee, to stand up and say, this is the sort of confidence we need to understand what your facilities need and the amount of money it would cost. And that was sort of the thing that...
There's no substitute to being vested in a process.
Right.
And I think
yes.
I do commend you guys for doing that. I'm actually very pleasantly, not surprised, I'm happy to hear that one of the first things they tackled was, well, why didn't it work for Measure M? Because I think there's a lot to be learned there.
Right.
And again, I encourage everybody that's listening to please go to, and I'm going to ask you to give the website again.
capousd.org.
Hit the Get Involved.
Get involved. If you can't follow that or whatever, RKBURRIS at capousd is my email. Just send me an email.
Oh, he just,
He opened the floodgate.
I can only imagine what kind of filters he's got in his email.
There's no filters.
I'm
you should
kidding.
see it.
Yeah.
Can I just say something as we're wrapping up? We have lots of representatives, lots of PR people, lots of communications director, whatever title you want to, the people who speak for big entities. You have been the most forthright, the most open, the most willing to talk, the bluntest, communications guy I've ever heard. Usually they're always trying to spin it and put everything. And you're saying, yeah, well, I guess we got a problem here.
Yeah.
I guess things didn't get communicated right. We thought we were doing a good job and we weren't. We're trying to do better. Tell us how to do better. Wow. I don't know who listens to this from your upper end, but I applaud you.
Yeah,
I wish they were all like this.
Absolutely, I echo Paul's sentiments. You knew walking in here that we were not going to pull punches, and we still had, I think, a civil exchange.
And a real conversation.
But a real conversation.
I think I understand more from your standpoint of the frustrations you guys are feeling.
He's walking out smiling still, so,
right.
you know, I mean...
Well,
good stuff.
I learned, I guess, young at the Sheriff's Department through working with Corona and going through the indictment and all, just, I've been through a lot as far as crisis goes, and the thing I think that is most important for me is that people have confidence in our work and trust us, because otherwise we are in trouble and it won't work.
And to be real and to admit, okay, we may not have all the answers. Maybe we didn't do things right. The more you're real and admit things, the more people will immediately trust you and drop their guard. The more you come in and try and spin it and create the perfect scenario like so many in Washington are trying to do constantly on both sides, that's when we stop listening and stop trusting.
Well, I look,
talk to us.
Bringing it back
and
to
you did today.
Bringing it back to local. There's work to be done on all sides. There's always going to be work to be done on all sides, right? You have elections every 2 years. You have elections every 4 years. I mean, there's all. This is not this thing doesn't sit still, and it's affected by everything. But I think if we can trust each other, if we can build a trust. We may disagree, but I think we'll still come up with something that is in the benefit of our children. Which, at the end of the day, this is what this is about. It's about the benefit of our children, the level of quality of education, the future of those communities.
And in the end, we've got to find a way to work through these issues on a local level and a national level. We get into all this stuff. We can't just yell at each other. At the end of the day, we still got a problem.
I honestly believe that we are coming to a point where it's going to be critical mass, and it may have been pushed by the recent election. Maybe we need one more cycle. But I think this disdain and this sort of us and them, you're either with us or you're against us attitude.
No compromise.
In the greater population is getting to the point where we are so ticked off about this that you almost turn my stomach the minute you take a polarizing position.
Right.
Yes.
I think we're getting there.
Yep.
And I think the result of that positively will be that we'll be more willing to work with one another.
And for 20 years, I was a PR person, first for celebrities and then later for corporations. And I found the more you can be real and honest and open, the more you say, okay, we admit maybe this isn't working, so tell us, how can we do it better? People start listening. The minute you immediately come in and try and spin it, that's a good thing that this is happening.
People can smell BS a mile away.
More so than ever.
Right? And if anything, they have gotten better at it.
Right.
So I really applaud you, Ryan. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
It was really very informative. And
anytime you want, and I give you an open invitation, anytime you feel that your story is not being told, come in, contact us. We'll find a place for an outlet for you where you can tell your side of it, because this is supposed to be community radio here. And I know we're trying to be streaming, not screaming.
Right.
So we're trying to find ways to tell stories.
I will end on this, though, okay? You guys really need to possibly take a look at what you can do as much as you are able to do relevant to the situation with the toll road.
Right.
Because forget the emotionality, the impacts, the possible air quality, safety, you name it, right, is going to be severe. The quality of life that we are accustomed to in South County, especially through established communities, which is the anomaly in this particular case, that they're considering running it through established communities, okay, is going to have a devastating effect. And it will never be the same. So I don't know, whatever leadership role the school district can take in that capacity, which may lead even to more a strengthening of that trust.
Right.
Be it that it works or not, but actually to be seen that, you know, we are part of the community. We are in the community's corner, and we are interested in the quality and the safety of our kids, and the same as every parent, right? And here's what we can do.
Yep.
Creatively maybe or whatever, but this is what we can do. Because I think a district that large with that much financial sort of budget, but more importantly representation, if you will, of all those people across municipalities, there's a leadership role there.
Right.
That's an opportunity, personally.
Well, I got to lead this show out because we're way over here. But
thank you so much, Ryan. Thanks,
you.
Paul, for letting us run over. And everybody, please, if you have any questions, contact us. Rad Life will be back on the air Wednesday next week.
And that's when Check Out California comes back, right? Is that next week?
Next for the plug.
All right.
You have been listening to the Rad Life Radio Show with your host and age explorer, Rad Gantos, brought to you on the one and only octalkradio.net. Join us again next week as we continue our journey of discovery into life's challenges, opportunities, options, and all the latest and greatest things that come with getting older.